So welcome to this podcast. We have Manoj Kopparam Manjunath. Welcome, Manoj, who's the Director Sales and Tech Services at Avery. We're basically going to be zoning in on labels, and we're going to be looking of areas of interest that Avery specializes in, and some insights from Manoj, who has been with Avery for a couple of decades and hopefully will spotlight some trends in applications and some trends in technology. So first and foremost, thank you so much for doing this. I know you've flown down from Delhi especially for this.
Thank you, Ramu, for the opportunity. It's wonderful feeling to be on this podcast and sharing Avery Dennison's views on the label industry. To put things straight, 2 decades of industry experience and about 6 years at Avery Dennison.
I'm also curious to know because I know you travel a lot, and as you were saying, almost 10 days in a month you're on, in with your bag across the country. What are the kind of conversations you're hearing with some of your partners who are label converters? Number one, and number two is also in that conversation, are you getting a sense of where the industry is heading into? In what direction is it? What is the vibe that you get? Because I think that will also, contextualize many things for us.
See, let me take a step back and probably tell you where labels fit into the entire packaging ecosystem. So, labels are a means of decorating a package,
Right.
And it is more relatable to a rigid packaging than with a flexible packaging.
Yeah.
The decoration of a rigid packaging can happen through a variety of technologies.
Sure.
Labels being just one of them.
Yep.
Just to give everyone a perspective, our understanding is that the global size for this decoration that happens on rigid packaging is close to about 75 billion square meters.
Okay.
It's a large number.
Significant, yeah.
I'm not talking about value here because COVID came in, we saw a lot of RM inflation, and it is not going to tell you how large the industry is because it's a momentary inflation in the RM prices, and you would not get a feel for the industry. But volume is a very fair barometer in which you can judge the size of the industry.
Right.
So that the entire decoration space itself is about 75 billion square meters globally. Pressure sensitive labels in which Avery Dennison operates is a part of the decoration of rigid packaging. There are many alternating technologies that are still continuing to be available. Just to make a case in point, you still have technologies like wet glue.
Of course.
You have shrink sleeves, you have in-mold labels. All these are competing technologies that are vying for a place in that decoration.
Got it.
So pressure sensitive labels is about 40% of that entire decoration space. So to make the maths a little more easier, it's about, let's say, 28, 29 billion square meters.
Globally.
Asia Pacific is the largest for market for the pressure sensitive labels. About 40% of that number sits in Asia, which is about a 12 billion square meter market in Asia Pacific. China being the dominant in Asia Pacific from a pressure sensitive perspective.
Right.
And then India follows China and Southeast Asia as the two other bigger geographies.
Sure.
So the point I'm trying to make is that the 12 billion square meters of pressure sensitive label space that we operate in Asia Pacific has an equal opportunity in terms of displacing the competing technologies, be it wet glue, be it shrink, wherever it matters the most.
Yep.
So it is up to this industry to determine how rapidly growth can be seen in this space. There are opportunities directly available for pressure sensitive labels,
Sure.
but there are numerous opportunities where pressure sensitive labels can be positioned as a dominant decoration technology versus the other incumbents, and it has significant advantages. So in my conversations with converters, if that's the question that you posed me, there is hunger for growth. There is opportunity that we see for growth of pressure sensitive labels. The per capita pressure sensitive label consumption in India is amongst the lowest as far as developing countries is concerned. North America, for example, we talk about a per capita consumption of about 15 kilograms. China, about 5 kilograms, the same population as India, and we're still about 0.6, 0.7 kilograms space. Of course, we respect that the markets are completely different, the end use applications and the dynamics are completely different. Despite that, there continues to be tremendous opportunity for growth for pressure sensitive labels to move the needle from let's say a 0.6, 0.7 kilograms to somewhere around 2, 3 kilograms. That itself will triple the label consumption, and that's the kind of opportunity that we are wanting our converters to envisage and work towards growing this industry.
Sure. Nice. So in a way, I think two or three things come across. One is the fact that there is huge possibilities of growth. Number two is that obviously there is going to be investment in cap. And third is this sort of transitioning towards pressure sensitive. So you see more people probably transitioning from wet glue to PS. Is that a likelihood? I mean, many more in terms of numbers?
Yeah, so I mentioned to you that there are competing technologies,
Correct,
right?
correct.
So pressure sensitive labels, in our best understanding, is still 30% of the
Significant, yeah,
technologies
yeah.
that can be
Hmm.
thought of from a
Hmm.
decoration
Yep,
perspective.
yep.
So there are opportunities in wet glue, which could be another 30% of the pie. There could be
Hmm.
opportunities in shrink sleeves, which could be another
Mm, yep.
15%, 20% of the
And I
pie.
guess the reason wet glue was dominant in India is primarily because offset was the available technology and people had invested in that.
That's true.
To get into PS, I think they necessarily had to adopt a new technology, invest in a new line, etc. And also the habit of producing PS on a narrow web flexo.
That's true. I think the industry shaped itself with the changing needs of
Correct.
manufacturing that
Yep.
we were going through.
Mm.
With wet glue, the industry couldn't boast of a large productivity gain,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
When
True.
you have a situation when you want to manufacture, let's say 150, 200 bottles per minute,
Mm.
or sometimes 500 bottles per minute,
Mm.
uh, labeling cannot be a bottleneck for
Mm.
you to get to that productivity gain.
True.
So that's where pressure sensitive labels came in.
Yep.
It automated the label application process.
Mm.
Not a significant investment. Label applicators are today available at a reasonably lower price.
That's true.
And with that small investment, you're suddenly able to push your productivity to a large extent without any major changes in your manufacturing structure.
Nice.
So that was the trigger for pressure sensitive labels when
Mm.
it really catapulted in India. It's
Mm.
about, let's say, 10, 15 years
Yes,
ago.
a decade ago.
But we still believe there is room in the tier 2, tier 3 brands which continue to be on wet glue.
Yeah. Mm.
The awareness for the operational efficiencies and the gains that the brands can see with a
Mm.
shift to pressure sensitive labels is
Mm.
something that we are wanting to encash on. And
Sure.
that's where I think we would
Mm.
continue to see the growth.
Yep, yep. So in a way, it sort of dovetails nicely with what is happening in Noida with the facility where I think Avery Dennison has made the significant investment. It's 250 crores, and obviously, I think a couple of things are happening: reinforcing your position in India market, and obviously anticipating this growth, which some of the numbers to which you've alluded to. So if you can give us a sense of what's happening in that factory and what is the sort of messaging that one should extrapolate from the investment that Avery has done at that.
Yeah, it's been 2 years or so now since the factory is operational now in Noida.
Right.
It was a relatively large size investment for Avery Dennison at that point of time,
Mm.
reassuring the fact that we continue to be fairly confident
Okay.
about the industry growth.
Mm.
We've grown relatively well in the last 20 years in India. We continue
Mm.
to believe that this industry potentially can offer opportunities for 10+% growth in the years to come.
Mm.
And it is in line with that thinking that we invested into this facility. This is a state of the art, one of the best facilities for Avery Dennison that we have in Asia Pacific. High
Sure.
speed lines churning out materials day in, day out,
Mm.
helps us really deliver consistent, high quality materials to converters on time.
Mm.
The pace of the industry is very fast. People
Mm.
need materials on time, and
Mm.
people need consistent, good quality materials.
Yep.
Avery Dennison has been known for its ability to service the converter requirements and the printer requirements
Mm.
very rapidly. And this is just an addition to the strength that we have
Right.
as a strong differentiator to
Mm.
provide label stock materials
Got it.
to converters.
And again, just to give us a sense, so you have the big factory in Noida, you have an operation in Ranjangaon. In addition, what is the sort of hub and spoke model you have for outreach? Because obviously you're talking of an industry which is fairly fragmented and all over the country,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, essentially, the manufacturing can possibly be looked at from two large perspectives.
Okay.
One is our ability to make jumbo rolls,
Correct.
and then our ability to split that jumbo roll into widths which the flexo printers can use.
Require.
So, our two facilities, one in Ranjangaon and Noida, has the capability to produce jumbo rolls along with the facilities to provide slit rolls, and it would cater to that geography very easily to the
Yep.
converters close to those plants. Apart from these, we also have facilities in Bangalore and Kolkata where we only do the slitting operations, which means our jumbo rolls get shipped to those
Centers.
centers. We call them as distribution centers.
Okay.
And then the jumbo rolls get handled and converted into slit rolls.
Hmm.
So because of this geographical presence in northwest south, we are able to cater to most of the demand that is there for label stock materials, and we're able to live up to that
So,
expectation.
which means that when you're doing the slitting, you're actually giving me the length and the width that I demand, right
Yes.
down to mm. So, which is used to be a challenge once upon a time, and obviously you have kind of eschewed that totally, right?
Sure.
Right. Interesting. Yeah.
Sure.
So the sense I'm getting right now is that there is a huge market, there's a huge opportunity. The foundation has been laid, and obviously Avery Dennison has a massive stake in it in terms of the solutions and product portfolio that you have. What are the kind of challenges that you see? Because obviously, I mean, one of the things that comes to me, which is a anecdotal challenge, is what's happened in the alcobev space, for instance. An industry which traditionally used a lot. It was media dark, so they traditionally used a lot of labeling and monocartons, etc. They have kind of bypassed that whole thing. So that is the challenge. What are the typical challenges to prevent this gallop that you're talking of?
See, label is an inherent part of packaging.
Got it.
To assume that we can get rid of a decoration technology which communicates to the consumer about the brand benefits and information is a little bit of far stretched. I don't think it will vanish and evaporate, right?
Okay.
It is going to be there in some form. It is either going to be there as a pressure sensitive label or a shrink sleeve label, so on and so forth. The COVID situation really catapulted the cost of this label to the brand.
I see.
Okay, we saw significant inflation in RMs and supply chain disruptions that happened at that point of time, which is now forcing many brands to optimize the spends on label materials. They cannot eliminate it, they want to optimize the spends. In that spirit of optimization, somewhere materials are getting specified which are not appropriate for that particular application. Sometimes you're optimizing the size too much of the label in the spirit of what you want to achieve. It is limiting the brand's ability to conceive alternate label stock materials that can be used for that particular application.
Got it.
These are some of the challenges that we are trying to maneuver, and we're wanting to help the brands to right size and give them the material that is fit for purpose. Okay,
got it.
There could be potentially a particular kind of a label material that people have been using for ages, right? Without really questioning, do I need that particular construction for this particular application, right? Optimization only means that I would give you a product that suits your requirements, right? So there are possibilities there in which we are able to optimize label constructions and help the brand achieve what they achieve.
Sure.
But
so this would be what? Some kind of lightweighting and
it's a combination. It's like I said, it's material science at play.
Okay.
Typically, a label has a face stock with a coating, which is print receptive, or could have some other functional advantage. It has an adhesive. It has a liner. Right. When we talk about right purposing the products, you are able to optimize the construction, use the right kind of face with the right kind of coating, with the right kind of adhesive and the right kind of liner, so that it meets your application. You wouldn't want to drive a sophisticated car when you can accomplish what you want to accomplish with a normal sedan.
Right.
So we try and optimize these things for the brand if there's a need.
Nice. But are you seeing sort of usage of labels evolve in specific sort of verticals and specific industries? If you can sort of share some examples.
See, traditionally, labels are there in all the conventional FMCG segments that we talk about. You would also see labels in the white goods and consumer space. The new industries that are coming up, like the mobile manufacturing, the EVs, which are coming up, also have a lot of potential applications that can be explored for labels. But even without going there, the penetration of pressure sensitive labels in the conventional applications is low in India, and that itself provides enough opportunity for growth. The label is no longer a material that will limit itself to telling, hey, I am this brand and I can do this thing for you, right? there's a lot of functionality that the
Okay.
label can help provide.
Hmm.
And it is our endeavor to
Hmm.
educate the brands
Hmm.
about the possibilities of different functions that a label can bring in. And
Hmm.
therefore, it is not merely seen as a static piece of paper or film on an object,
Or a
but
print
it will,
collateral.
yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
it can do a lot more.
That's true.
It is a solution. It is a solution that we would want to go back to the industry with
Got it.
and just
Understood.
run
Yeah.
material.
So again, a couple of things that you shared. One is that the fact that the label space is this huge monster, to quote you, and the second is, unfortunately, there is this whole commoditization that's transpiring. So in terms of messaging, what is it that we as sort of stakeholders in this industry should be having? What kind of conversations, say, with the brand guys, with the brand managers, with the product designers, etc.? Because somewhere I think the whole commodity per unit, paise per unit cost is what the conversation unfortunately has got reduced to.
Yeah.
And the fact that it has the potential and the capability to do so much more in terms of the value chain, in
Yeah.
terms of the technology,
Yeah.
in terms of the capabilities. So two questions really: what is it that we are not doing, which we
Yeah.
should be doing, and
Yeah.
how do we address it?
Yeah. So the challenge is not unique to this industry. I
Of
think
course, yeah.
everybody in an organization has a KPI to go behind, right?
Yeah.
And that's what drives the actions that you do in your particular role. So is the case with our labels.
Yep.
The packaging teams that are in the brands
Hmm.
are a little more familiar with what are the possibilities of the label, right?
Yep. Yep.
And they would design and specify a label potentially considering the total cost of operations of a label, right?
Okay.
It is just not the per square meter or per square inch cost. They would have evaluated potentially the productivity benefits,
Yep.
other functional benefits depending on the application that you're
Yep.
looking at, rather than just looking from a material to material perspective.
Hmm.
That narrative and messaging slowly dies down as it gets executed within the organization, right? The other teams may or may not have full visibility into what a label can do, and therefore it drives rapid commoditization.
Yep.
And potentially you're talking about a situation where you are under specifying
Yep.
a label in a particular application, and you would realize it that my factory is not able to churn out the products in the speed that used to before, because you change a simple label. You said it's of no significance. You change the specification, tweaked it, but it's going to hurt you in somewhere else.
Yep.
So the total cost of the label is probably a consideration for the brands to have versus just a simple square meter cost or a square inch cost. And our endeavor is to educate the brands and help them visualize the end-to-end decision making process when they specify labels.
Sometimes does this happen that you're so big an organization that there is a disconnect in terms of just the conversations that you're having in terms of pain points. So I'll just sort of flashback. I mean, I was watching some old documentaries, and it was about the great inventors that sort of came out of the US. And one of them that was sort of pointed out in that, I think it was a series of 12, and one of the great inventors was Stan Avery. And of course, this was, I think, maybe 100 years ago or 90 years ago. And he had invented the PS label at that time. And, the operation was shown, the factory, etc. And there's a short interview with the founder and inventor of the PS label. And he was asked why he did it. And he said that, I did it because there was a requirement in the community, and I wanted to take care of the need of the community. So sometimes, when I visit the huge behemoths and the huge factories and the multiple hierarchies, and obviously Avery has grown tremendously from that vision of what Stan Avery had. But sometimes I feel that this need of taking care of a community, that the community has a problem and I'll create a thing for it, and solving the problem of the community. Have we, because we've moved so much away from that, we tend to get into conversations where we over-engineer so much that the basics of labels have somewhere, got lost in this entire thing. Would that be a fair assessment?
There are many people involved in this exercise
Of
of
course.
finalizing what form of decoration rigid packaging has to take.
Yep.
It
Yep.
starts with the designers
Yep. Yep.
who are designing the label for you. Their understanding of label materials, their understanding of print conversion is extremely important. Otherwise, whatever they do remains on a JPEG file or
Yeah.
or in a digital format.
Correct.
without lending itself to actual production.
Right.
So the awareness of what a label can do has to be complete in the ecosystem,
Yep.
starting from the designers who are the first point of contact for a label to find life, right? And then the brand managers and the brand owners,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Their awareness about labels is also important.
Equally.
Otherwise, they would just assume what's coming their way as the best option for that particular situation.
Right.
And then there is this ecosystem of packaging professionals, converters, and stuff like that. So somewhere in this value chain, our sincere feeling is that there is significant amount of education and upskilling that is
Yep.
required in the upstream of this value chain, which is the designers and the
Yep.
brand managers
Yep.
and stuff
Yep.
like that. For them, labels might not be top of their mind, but once they are exposed to what a label can do, we're pretty sure that they'll find it fascinating, and we could come up with a lot of ideas to do
So
it.
constantly nudging people in that direction, is that what?
Constantly nudging people in that direction, and put your vision into action is another strong behavior that we have in Avery Dennison.
Sure.
So most recently, we've come up with this facility in Pune, which
Yeah.
is a co-working facility. It's called InsightX.
Of course, yeah.
The vision behind that is I cannot solve a problem by myself. Right? I would need the industry to come together
Yeah.
and contribute towards solutions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We feel very confident that if you give us a problem, we'll be able to solve it. Okay. Sometimes the problem even doesn't reach us.
Yeah. True.
And therefore, we created this facility, and we are inviting brands to come in there with their problems. We would bring the label ecosystem together. We would bring the relevant converters. We would bring the relevant ink suppliers, so on. Whatever is required for us to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And that is a small effort in the direction of ensuring that you are actually tackling a problem.
Yeah.
And you're not really worried about replacing one material with another.
Yeah.
We're starting to see some success. There's been
So
good
who
footfall.
walks in? Converters, designers, brands?
Open to all.
Open to all.
Is a very magnanimous way of
call for action.
call for action. But we've seen brands take advantage of it,
Yeah.
come and visit us. We've seen
Sure.
some designers come in there and do some workshops, help their teams get more educated on labels, and it's all in the right spirit of using the right materials.
Sure. So I keep saying this, that is probably one of Avery's best kept secrets, and I think I shared that with you for basically 3 reasons. For me, it was a huge eye opener in terms of applications, because for me, labels was a very small item in the larger pie of what we do in terms of putting ink on any substrate, and it just sort of opened a whole new world for me. Number one. Number two was also to see the actioning in real time space, shelves and so on, and the third was demos. And in demos, I think, for example, there was this whole section to do with RFID, for instance, which again was a huge eye opener, because again, you have people coming on stage and platforms, and they throw these jargons at you: RFID, AI, machine learning, but you actually saw actionable things happening on that. So if you can again share where in Pune it is, who's running the show for you guys, and typically how does the system works if you want to visit this?
The InsightX is a part of our research facility that we have in Pune. We house it in the same campus as our manufacturing facility. We can share the details of an address for the people who are interested. But yes, it's a wonderful place to see labels in action. Like you said, demos are the truth. Right?
True.
If I claim that my label has certain functionality, unless you see that in front of your eyes, you would probably not believe it, right?
Yes.
So we've developed some very unique applications with functionalities like can the labels get washed off in certain situations if the brand needs it, right? Can the labels be removed easily? It should stay on the bottle for as long as it is required, but it should also come off very easily when the consumer wants to get rid of it. How many times have you gone to, let's say, a lifestyle store, bought the most expensive crockery, found labels on it,
which you
and
can't peel.
struggle to peel it off,
right?
It's the wrong use of the label.
Right.
So there are many such examples like this. Convenience of the customer, brand loyalty, several things can get triggered once you put the functionality of the labels into action. So this InsightX gives you an opportunity to see all those functionalities and actions. It could be security, it could be brand protection, it could be ability for the labels to be washed off.
Sure.
It could be labels that have recycled content and how they behave
Yep,
when
yep.
you convert and apply.
Yep.
And there are many such
Yeah,
things that
yeah. And also,
one
I
can
think
see.
what's nice is you convert on multiple devices. It's not just the traditional narrow web label. You also have, I think, a couple of the digital lines as well, right? Yeah.
We have a digital press where we can take some trials.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can put the label stocks through thermal transfer printing,
Yeah.
direct thermal printing,
Yep, yeah.
conventional flexo printing. We try and mimic as much as possible what the
Correct.
industry would ultimately
Require,
want to
yeah.
do.
No, no, I think it's fascinating. And as I sort of implore more people to sort of visit the site because I think it's just fantastic. You said something about wash-off labels, and
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's nice because I have a set of questions about sustainability. And I know wash-off labels was one of the big case studies that Avery had sort of embarked on and
Yeah.
what its impact was. So again, two questions really, given the rise in sustainability and the kind of awareness that we have been seeing about it and the conversations around us. What is happening in that space with Avery, and more importantly, because there is a requirement from the industry, are there sustainable alternatives to PS?
Yeah. So we have a very simple way of looking at sustainability in Avery Dennison. We
Okay.
typically look at it in three large buckets.
Okay.
What can we do from a material perspective uh, in the line of sustainability? How can we run our plants and operations differently so that it is sustainable in the long run?
Okay.
And what impact can we create to the communities that are living close by? So these are the three broad principles on which any action to sustainability is rallied within Avery Dennison. On the material side of things, there are many opportunities
Okay.
that we typically feel confident about where labels can continue to contribute. We could potentially have responsible sourcing for our label raw materials, which means that we buy from suppliers who are environmentally conscious, who are FSC certified, who make sure that there is no deforestation happening as the paper and pulp and other things get produced. We could also embark on a journey where the labels are designed for reuse. For example, the wash off example that you just gave. The label comes off and a new label can be applied, and the bottle is intact. You don't need to use a glass bottle, a new virgin glass bottle. You can just reuse the same glass bottle. It saves you money from a brand perspective, and it also makes sure that you're contributing towards your carbon footprint.
Yep.
There are opportunities where the label materials can have recycled content. Okay, the filmic labels that we are speaking about, typically PP labels or PET labels, can have recycled content into them to the tune of 15-30%, so that the use of virgin plastics get reduced in that situation. And we have programs that will help recycle the label materials. So if you typically look about a pressure sensitive label material, 40% of the mass of the label is coming from the liner.
Correct.
And the liner is left after the application of the label at the manufacturing facility, right?
Correct.
It's the spent liner. And this is creating a lot of waves in the industry on, 40% of what you supply is again gone unutilized. So we've been working on this stuff across geographies, and in India we have a very active liner recycling program.
Okay.
Where we give the brand the assurance that you give us the liner back, we will use it responsibly.
Okay.
And recycle the liner so that we can make down-gauged materials like tissues or some other products, so that it's just not going to a landfill and it's getting used somewhere. So these are the four different areas in which, from a material side, we can contribute very, very strongly.
Sure.
Our manufacturing and operations, you can understand that if an organization is growing 10% year on year, we have our energy targets and other manufacturing targets, which are about which limits itself to what energy that I spent 5-7 years ago. So you grow on one side, you're growing the business. On the other side, you're really limiting the amount of energy that you want to invest in operations. So there are several initiatives on the manufacturing and operations
How
side as well.
successful is the liner recollection system in India? Is it sort of taken off?
It's a struggle.
Okay.
It's a struggle. we've had several awareness sessions for the brands and stuff like that.
mm,
We don't have as many brands onboarded
mm,
as we would like to feel, but
mm.
it's a beautiful program. I think
Correct.
the brands can take advantage of this one. They can approach us, and we can ensure that
Sure.
the liner is.
Right. Just curious to know, is the cost of recycle slightly more than virgin in that sense? How does it play in the actual application area?
Depends on the threshold.
Threshold, yeah.
See, post-consumer waste availability of PET is
Hmm.
fairly easy
Correct.
in India,
That.
because over the years there's an established collection mechanism, so on and so forth, and you have good
Hmm.
quality PET
Hmm.
recyclate available in the market. It's
Yep.
not true for PP.
Yep.
It's not true for other products that
Hmm.
go it, right? So
Hmm.
it's there's no straightforward answer,
Hmm.
but we believe that 10 15, up to 10-15% we should
Be able to capture.
be able to absorb the costs.
Hmm.
Beyond
Hmm.
that, it might
Hmm.
become
Hmm.
a surcharge.
Sure.
There's an
Sure.
upcharge that we
Sure.
would.
Again, curious to know, because I mean, you did mention that in addition to your materials team, in addition to your sales team, in addition to your tech support team, there's also a team that's sort of hand-holding with brands.
Yeah.
Again, curious to know what is the role of that particular team, and is it sort of new product developments? Is it new projects? Is it sometimes is it also to do with the sustainability quotient? And again, what kind of features are there which are attached to that particular program, project, whatever?
Yeah, combination of everything is what I would say.
Right.
Right. Uh, the teams that work with the brands more closely are referred to as segment development teams for us.
Segment development. Okay.
They work on business continuity initiatives. They
Hmm.
work on recommendation of new substrates
Hmm.
whenever there's a new launch that the brand is envisaging. They work. Uh, they work on positioning PSL
Yeah.
as the technology of choice.
Okay.
Pressure sensitive labels is the most versatile decoration technology that is available for the brands when
Okay.
you compare with the incumbents.
Hmm.
Sometimes, because the shape of the bottle is a little different versus what is comfortable for a pressure sensitive label, people make a choice of using an alternate technology.
Hmm.
But through interaction with our teams in segment development,
Yep.
we can see what is the best way to position pressure sensitive label, because it is the most versatile
Hmm.
uh, material that is available for decoration. It can stick to glass, cartons,
Hmm.
uh, any kind of plastic material. It can work in service temperatures from -5 to plus 150, 160 degrees centigrade.
Yep. I mean,
There are several
innumerable
benefits.
boxes it ticks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it takes several boxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these teams largely promote the use of pressure sensitive labels by either optimizing the current substrates
Hmm.
or helping the brands decide on a
Yeah.
new substrate
Sure.
when the
Sure.
brand is being
Yeah,
launched.
and I'm also curious to know, is it also just the mainstream big brands, or you're also looking at regional brands, startups, some of these guys who are operating in e-commerce? Because we're also seeing greater degree of flexibility. So it obviously means different mindset in terms of, SKUs and inventory and all those other things.
Yeah, there's only so much we can do as an
Of
organization
course,
with
yeah.
limited feet on the ground and stuff
Right,
like that,
right,
right?
right, right.
So our goal is to educate our converters, and
Hmm.
we believe, of course, the print partners have tremendous
The role to play,
relationships
yeah.
with all the brands,
Of course.
but their reach, we believe, is far more superior than ours when it comes to tier
Hmm.
2 and tier 3 brands. They know the
Hmm.
mom and pop organizations in and around where they live.
Yep.
They are able to spot opportunities for
Hmm.
conversion,
Yep.
and once they are empowered with enough information,
Hmm.
they are able to bring home the business, and
Sure.
that's how we collaborate with most of the
Most
converters.
of the thing, yeah.
While our segment development teams would like to do everything they can,
Hmm.
but many times the mind space is mostly towards the larger brands that we talk
Hmm.
about.
So I think in addition to the Pune facility, for me, this is the other big secret that you've been keeping. Okay, again just curious to understand this, because every time one attends a label conference or a label presentation, there are these 5 or 6 terminologies which are sort of one is personalization, one is premiumization, customer connect, customer convenience, connected packaging. And of course, SKUs and shorter product life cycles. Again, just curious to know, these are sort of the 6 catchwords. Your response to these 6 catchwords and how Avery is sort of, responding to all of this.
These are the most important trends that
Right.
we would potentially see in the future.
Hmm.
Who does not want personalization, right? I
Right.
always want to be treated special, like the way you're treating me today, right?
Right.
You drove me from the hotel, you made me feel special, and there's a
Right.
good feeling I have about
Right.
it, right? So,
Hmm.
so personalization is a big theme.
Hmm.
Can the label material contribute directly to personalization? The answer is probably not.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, it is the combination of the label material and the print that happens on the label
Right.
that makes it extremely friendly towards personalization,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And that's where I think collaboration with our print partners becomes so important as
Hmm.
we want to capitalize on this trend of personalization.
Got it. Hmm.
Digital printing and hybrid printing are most likely the print technologies that will come into action
Hmm.
when you want to drive this uh, when you want to drive solutions that can help you answer the personalization requirements,
Sure. Sure.
right? Connected packaging is another big theme.
Hmm.
Packaging is becoming very smart.
Hmm.
When you integrate labels with technologies like NFC and
Hmm.
RFID,
Hmm.
suddenly the label is able to deliver a lot more than what it used to before.
Hmm.
It can help you run customer loyalty programs.
Yep.
It can help you provide authentication for the products that you're talking about, and many other ways in which it can be put into action.
Hmm. Has
That
this caught on NFC and RFID in India?
RFID not from a uh, consumer connect program,
Okay.
but RFID from a supply chain management.
Hmm. So you're
Uh,
tracking where the movement of material.
yeah,
Nice.
so yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
farm to fork kind of a concept. You
Right.
can really use this technology to
Hmm.
really know the
Hmm.
source of
Yep.
what
Yeah.
got into where and stuff
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm.
But it's not
And
far, I
actually, if
think.
used intelligently, you can control waste to a large extent. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So products on the shelf,
Yeah.
expiry dates, and all that
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
Pharma products.
Yeah.
When
Even
should you take
apparels.
something?
Hmm.
Apparels.
Hmm.
Sometimes you get stocked out on the
Yeah.
sizes that are
Yeah.
very fast moving. So all
Hmm.
that data intelligence can come
Hmm.
in very handy when you
Hmm.
use a smarter label, and the
Yep.
label becomes smart once you
Hmm.
integrate it with technologies like
Hmm.
RFID and
Sure. Hmm.
NFC, even QR codes for that matter. I think
Hmm.
it's evolving significantly.
Hmm.
Uh, there is a QR code that we today see in almost everything that
Yeah. Yeah.
we talk about, right? And
Hmm.
uh,
There's a joke that a friend makes that there are more QR codes on this planet than human beings
yeah,
on a daily basis. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So no, just too many. Yeah.
So all these things
Hmm.
integrated into the label really would make the label
Hmm.
deliver a lot more
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
what used to do
There
before.
was there was an interesting case study I seen with Avery. I think this was one of the early days. I think a decade ago, where with an airline brand they had sort of collaborated with RFID, and it was for label tags. I mean, these luggage tags for
Yeah,
passengers.
yeah,
A phenomenal success because luggages or bags that get lost in transit, that I think that percentage dropped. I mean, they had some
sure,
stats,
sure,
etc.
sure.
But is there something like that where you have a tangible thing between an RFID determining P&L for an organization?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think all these supply chain interventions that we are doing with RFID
Hmm.
is at the end of the day going to save something for the organization, either making goods available where it should be available
Right.
appropriately, or
Hmm.
destocking on
Yeah.
goods that are aging. That will
Yeah.
automatically
Yeah.
contribute to
Hmm.
your P&L
Correct.
case.
Absolutely.
RFID right now we are seeing an evolution. It's
Hmm.
largely used in the apparel space.
Of
In the
course.
last 7 to 10 years, typically you would walk into a Decathlon store, or you would
Hmm.
walk into, if you travel outside India, into a Walmart or a Tesco, and you typically see almost all the tags
Hmm.
having RFID, so
Hmm.
that inventory tracking and other things become easier. We're seeing a penetration of RFID in the non-apparel space increasing rapidly over the last 2 3 years. It could be general retail or industrial applications where this is trying to find some use. All your fast tags is RFID now.
Hmm.
All your entry exit points in your apartment buildings is
Hmm.
RFID. These are
Hmm.
applications which were almost non-existent about
Hmm.
2 3 years
Yeah.
before,
Yeah.
and there could be several more that will come up.
Yeah. Is FASTag and Avery baby?
No,
Not no.
we play in that space.
You
There
do,
are
huh?
there are
Yeah,
competitors
that would
that
be a
will.
great project to have in
Yeah.
your, yeah, yeah. And again, in terms of tamper evident, is there something, because again, we were part of some initiative, which was a Government of India thing where we were eavesdropping literally, and you realize the numbers are staggering in terms of what's happening,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Counterfeiting is a big challenge. It's a
Yes.
big industry
Yeah,
problem,
yeah,
and
yeah.
there are billions of dollars companies are losing because of fake products.
Yeah, yeah.
The challenge in counterfeiting is the industry's demand to provide a solution with no digital trigger, right? How many times will you scan a QR code just to authenticate a product, right? You just getting bored with that kind of situation.
Correct.
And the adoption to these kind of counterfeiting solutions, which has a digital trigger, is not caught up yet. So people want an evident feature on the label where the consumer can look at it, and with the use of marketing campaigns, you can promote that feature in a brand to tell the consumer that this is from an authentic manufacturing
So such as
location.
what, like
It could be,
invisible ink or
again,
hologram or
anything invisible needs a trigger, right?
correct,
You
yeah,
need some kind
yeah,
of a sensor or a UV
heat or
torch
something, yeah,
for it to be visible.
yeah.
But there are some ways of providing visible features
Okay.
on the label, which is very random, which cannot be replicated,
Sure.
which is not having a particular pattern, so that the consumer at the end of the day feels that he's buying a genuine product. So those
yeah.
are the solutions that we can work towards. And when you integrate that label advantage that you're able to provide to counterfeiting with the print advantage, this is like Sone Pe Sohaga, right? Then there is a lot of features that can be available for audits, for other things, and the brand can really feel comfortable that they have a secure product in place. So,
And this is doable on a sort of regular narrow web flexo 6-color
again,
inline, yeah.
the more complex printing that you have, the more complex features that
Features
you
you
can
can
build.
integrate into
With a
the whole
simple
thing.
flexo, you can build a few things, but when you have hybrids and digitals, then your ability to provide a complex solution increases.
Yeah, yeah. And here the onus is on who? On the converter or on Avery's ability to support the material?
The onus starts with the brand coming in with a need.
Right, and of
Sometimes
course,
the
yeah.
brand don't want to talk about counterfeiting
Correct,
because they
correct,
feel
correct.
that I
Yeah.
don't want to be known in the industry that my brand is getting counterfeited.
Sure,
So that
sure.
openness and willingness for the brand to come forward and
Yeah.
tell them that hey, I have a counterfeiting problem in this segment and application. Can you
Yeah.
help solve that?
Yeah.
Is the first trigger.
Yeah.
And then the converters have a role to play on how complex of a solution they are able to offer without a significant spike in the price of the label.
Yeah.
And there the converters, print technologies, our ability to provide the right materials comes into play. And together, us and the print partners in 8 out of 10 cases are able to provide solutions which the brand goes away happy with.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Okay, I have 3 or 4 questions now which come from people. We sort of notified a few of our supporters, readers, what have you, and asked them. We told them that Manoj Kopparam Manjunath is going to be in our studio, and so a few questions that have come in from the industry and people who know you and Avery Dennison. The first question is that, of course, Avery Dennison works with a lot of the quote unquote big converters. What are you doing to support the small and mid-sized converters who find investment in precisely some of the things we've been discussing over the last few minutes challenging? What is Avery doing for players in that segment?
Do we rally behind big print partners? It's a difficult question to answer, honestly, right?
Yeah.
They are strong partners for us. They
Of course,
provide us
yeah.
with the volumes
Yeah.
that we need for growth. They've been with us for several years, and they are important members of the value chain. So we have a huge regard and respect for the large converters. That does not mean that our ability to work with smaller converters is very limited. The challenge that we feel that the small converters have is their understanding about the pressure sensitive label space. They are making an investment, but do they know the practical ways of calculating the return on investment that they are making? Are they fully up to speed with what a label can do? Are they fully up to speed on what applications that they can explore? If the intent is to just shift business from one converter to the other, it will not serve the purpose, right? The entire industry has to work towards creating newer applications. I just told you that 30% is what the penetration of pressure sensitive labels is.
Correct.
There's so much more opportunity available, for which we facilitate a lot of product awareness sessions. The facility that you said in Pune regularly runs a 3-day workshop.
I see. Okay.
Where the converters can send in their operators, and the operators get trained on how do I use my material effectively on the line. Their sales people come in to understand what is the possibilities with pressure sensitive labels. And this is a significant investment that we are doing from a size. We take batches of 10, 15 people, not more than that.
Nice.
We run, let's say, 2 sessions in a month, all through the year, about 24 sessions in a year, where the smaller converters can take the advantage of participating in it, no fee basis. Come in, sit down, listen what's possible, look at the labels in action, then make an informed decision. This is our best give back to the
industry,
to the industry. The larger converters, because of their presence in the industry for a longer time, they are relatively mature in terms of their understanding of what's possible and what's not possible. But the smaller converters will have to go through this learning curve.
Right.
And that's where we come in and facilitate as much as we can.
Sure. Another question is about e-commerce growth, and what is, I mean, you've been sort of citing 30% in PS. Has PS labels seen penetration in e-commerce, and if yes, where? In which segment? Is it smart labels? Is it track and trace? Where does typically it come, and is it a good space to invest in?
It's funny that you asked that question. The most mature markets in the world have about 50% of the opportunities for labels available in the space that we call variable information.
Right.
Information is variable on your labels that go on shipper carton, because Ramu receives a package, Manoj receives a package. The two labels are very different from that sense, right? So that has been triggered largely by the e-commerce penetration in those geographies.
Okay.
Be it the US or Europe. Almost 45% of the label consumption in the mature markets is driven by e-commerce.
Okay.
China is a similar story. India, not yet. Okay. We are seeing a huge adoption of digital interfaces and digital technologies in our markets. UPI is a significant example, and I can pay 5 rupees today on my UPI. It's so convenient, right?
True.
So the adoption of digital technology is increased in India. The consumer convenience and the need for products is increasing. Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities becoming more desirable of certain products is increasing. All this is going to help the e-commerce growth in the country. And with e-commerce growth, the labels is going to grow. Fortunately, this is the only industry or application where pressure sensitive labels have a very firm fitment into the use for track and trace or logistics labels.
True.
None of the other incumbent technologies can fit in
can play in that space.
Can play the space of the logistics labels or track and trace.
That's true.
So we would want to chug along in this journey. We are already providing our label materials to many leading e-commerce players in the country. We believe it is going to grow significantly. The only downside is there has been significant label size reduction in this space. People have become smarter, and 3 years ago versus now, the size of the label that you would see on your shipper carton carrying your address would have undergone a tremendous
from
size
centimeters
change
to millimeters. That's true.
Yeah, so that's the only downside, but otherwise this e-commerce growth in India is very positive, and we believe that it will be one of the pillars for the pressure sensitive labels to grow.
And what is the status on linerless? I mean, are we heading in that direction? Is India ready? Will it mean a tweak in the machines?
Absolutely, yes. Right now for the logistics applications.
Okay.
We're in fact fairly close to being ready, and we would launch a linerless portfolio of products from India. We have this in our global portfolio, and we are seeing reasonable adoption for the linerless labels. particularly for the track and trace shipping and logistics industry.
Hmm.
Even for that ecosystem, the printers need to get developed, and there are a few other elements that have to fall in place for the
Hmm.
demand to really peak. But it will see the light of the tunnel. I think there
Yeah.
is there is a good adoption and progress.
Hmm.
But for the product labels, I think we're still some time still some time away. We continue to invest in that direction. We know
Sure.
that 40% is kind of spent as
Hmm.
it's a spent liner, it's waste.
Yep.
Who will
That's
not be happy if I
huge.
am able to save
Dispense
40%,
it.
right?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
dispense it. So
Yep.
product
Yep.
labeling will take some time,
Right.
but shipping and logistics adoption will be faster.
Sure. This again you touched upon, but what are you doing to capture the evolving demand for labels in sectors like electric vehicles, electronics, smart packaging, etc.? Is there any sort of movement in that direction?
These are emerging spaces which we are trying to understand
Right.
ourselves a little more, right?
Sure.
We do have a full-fledged portfolio that we offer for EV batteries
Yep.
and EV vehicles. Still very small in India, but I think we are ready with a global portfolio that we can attempt these opportunities with. Smart packaging and areas like that is an extension of our RFID understanding and knowledge that we have.
Hmm.
We have several case studies that are available globally on
Yep.
where an RFID and smart packaging can work.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, we are the world's largest UHF manufacturer, ultra
Okay.
high frequency radio frequency RFID inlay materials in the
Okay.
world.
Hmm.
And by nature of that, uh, possibly we are the first point of contact for anybody who would want to invest in an RFID technology.
Hmm.
And there are several case studies that are available, which we can put to action,
Hmm.
provided we see the need.
Would these be Indian case studies?
India is still largely apparel,
Okay.
but there's a pipeline of opportunities that we are working on, which will take
Sure.
it to non-apparel industries as well.
Nice, nice. Also curious to know, I mean, innovations, because Avery, in addition to being many things, is for me basically a company of innovation, right? And I'm curious to know any Avery innovation in the entire global space that you occupy that has originated from India, something that, or something that is work in progress in these various centers that you are, which obviously started off with a unique design for the Indian subcontinent, and then of course the world adopted it.
See, the wash off is a classic
Wash off
example.
is definitely, yeah.
The wash off that we use in India is primarily for liquor bottles,
Correct.
but in general can be used for anything that is transported with glass bottles.
Yep,
So
yep.
the liquor industry adopted this. This is a
Mm.
very unique innovation, and thanks to significant efforts by the local R&D and our product teams,
Mm.
which contributed towards this endeavor.
So you're a polymer scientist, correct?
Not a scientist.
But I mean,
I have
you've
my
got you have your
education.
degree, yeah. So
Yeah.
is that the reason why it drew you to Avery because I mean, behind the curtain, it basically is a science company, right?
Uh,
I mean, I know your day-to-day job is to sell products, convince
yeah,
people
I
of
like to
the
be closer to customers and
customers.
solving their problems.
Right,
That's
right.
my passion, and that's where
Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
be. But this education has given me that technical aptitude and
Yep.
an appreciation of what can happen,
Hmm.
and the possibilities that these kind of materials
Sure,
do bring in.
sure,
So
sure.
yeah.
Understood. All right, one final question. I mean, if we are having this podcast, say 25 years from now, and in our respective wheelchairs, then where do you see Avery Dennison in India? I mean, just a fancy sort of thing. I mean, your future forecast of where this industry is, where labels will be, where Avery will be, something that you can think of. It can be out of the box as well. Yeah.
Like I said, there is a lot of room for adoption of resistance labels. The
Sure.
number 0.6, 0.7 kilograms, if we can move the needle for it to become 3, 4, 5 kilograms, then I think
Hmm.
it is creating a lot of employment opportunities. It is
Sure.
creating a lot of opportunities for the business to mushroom.
Hmm.
And that's one thing that I think I'd be very happy to see
Correct.
sitting in
Hmm.
my wheelchair 25 years down the line, that
Right.
this industry has really become twice or thrice of what it
Right.
is today.
Right.
And I'd love to see labels being used for what it is intended to be, right?
Which would be?
Only 5% of the labels that is used today is capitalizing on the functional performance
Hmm.
that the labels can do, right?
That's true.
You use the same label on your uh, on your retail where you store cold products, right? Freezers and other things.
Yep.
The same label you use on your shampoo bottles and other things.
Yep.
But people should know that for my label to perform differently in a freezer, it has to use a special kind of an adhesive. And you cannot work with the general purpose adhesive
Of course.
to give you that application. And sometimes if you don't use the right product, then the label does not function, the label peels off, the label gets off the product, and you're suddenly starting to doubt whether this technology is the right one or not.
Viable, yeah.
So the understanding of the industry and their ability of the industry to use the labels for the right performance is something that will make us really happy. We are putting in a lot of efforts in that direction, that the functional component of labels has to be very understood. And from a 5% contribution today, if it is 25-30%, we would have really shown the brands and other people on how the functionality can help solve problems.
Got it.
And that solution is what will make it interesting.
Which sort of resonates with what your founder Stan Avery says, solving problems.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
We will make things possible.
You'll make things possible. Yeah. All right. Lovely. Okay, so that was Manoj Kopparam Manjunath, Director of Sales and Tech Services at Avery Dennison. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on labels and putting a lot of things into perspective. I think the little nuts and bolts, or rather the adhesives and the liners into perspective, was greatly sort of advantageous to all of us. So thank you for doing that. For many more such conversations, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and you can follow us on social media. Thank you so much.